Welcome once again, students. I am your faculty, Dr. Shweta Srivastav, Associate Professor, School of Management, BBD University. So, students, in the previous lecture, I told you the process of continuous improvement. So, again, it is a Japanese concept. So, it said that that quality is not a one-time phenomena. It is a continuous process. We assume a cycle of PDCA, that is plan, do, check, act. So quality should be taken as a philosophy, as a culture. So continuous improvement says that uh, we should try to improve quality. We should try to improve our processes. We should try to improve our products by taking small steps and by eliminating the wastages, by eliminating the wasteful cost. So this is how you can achieve quality in your organization. Moreover, at the same time, you have to understand that continuous improvement or the reduction in the cost is not actually compromise with the specifications or the quality. So, to achieve continuous improvement in the organization, the two things should be assumed. One is Kaizen costing, another is target costing. So, as I explained you in the previous lecture, that Kaizen costing is taking small incremental steps so as to reduce cost. So once you take a small step, that step will be treated as a target for the next Kaizen goal. So this is how by taking small steps you will achieve a big target. So another way of implementing continuous improvement in the organization is target costing. So it is developed by again in Japan and by Sir Kato. So let us understand what the target costing says. The concept. Target costing is an activity which is aimed at reducing the life cycle cost of a new product while ensuring quality, reliability and other consumer requirements by examining all possible ideas for cost reduction at the product planning, research and development and the prototyping phases of production. But it is not just a cost reduction technique. It is a part of comprehensive strategic profit management system. See students, I'll be explaining you one by one. So as you can see that it is the activity which is aimed at reducing the life cycle costs of the new products. When I say life cycle cost, it means the cost which is used in the whole life cycle of a product. We are not only taking we are not dividing the cost on periodic basis. Rather, the costs are divided on the basis of a stage at which the customer is lying. So, here we are trying to reduce the overall cost which is utilized by a product during its life cycle. So, how it is done? By ensuring quality and reliability and other consumer requirements, but not after production. It is done by examining the ideas at the product planning and research and development and the prototyping phase of the production. It means because we know that most of the cost is logged at the time of design stage only. So the focus is on adding only those features that add value to the product or to the organization. So if you are removing all non-value adding features, the cost will be ultimately reduced. Or if you are attaching any feature which is not required by the customer, it means you are actually wasting the money of yourself and the customer as well. So it is actually not a part of cost reduction technique. It is a part of comprehensive strategic profit management system, because in target costing we work backward. We set a profit and this profit is set, target profit is set by the top management. So after setting the target profit, we try to fix the selling price by adding value to every feature the customer needs. And when a price is set, and thereby target cost is achieved by deducting selling price and profit. Right, students? So this is the backward equation. We are not calculating markup profit. It means profit based on cost. Rather, we have set a target profit and then we are trying to achieve the target cost. The cost should not go beyond that particular target. So that is the concept of target costing. So, target costing is an important tool in strengthening organizations' competitive position by promoting cost consciousness, because we are removing all such features at the design stage only which is not needed by the customer, or when it is not when the feature is not adding value to the customer. Now it focuses on profit margins. The target costs are set on the basis of the profits set by the top management. It is developed by Cato. So traditional standard costing starts as the product goes into production. It means we are actually conducting the variance analysis. We are trying to compare the results with the actuals. So this is variance analysis. But what happens? The organization is going to make a new product. It will be designed this particular way, and as a consequence the cost will be so much. So what it happens when you are comparing, when you are building standard cost when the product is made, what will happen? That cost will be increased because you are not looking from the perspective of the customer, what he or she needs, right? So you will be adding so much of features which are not actually needed, so that will eventually increase your cost. And you set a standard cost on the basis of cost of production, so the variances are bound to take place. This in turn influences the selling price. When the costs are high, the selling price will also be high. So managers are expected to keep within predetermined standard cost, and variances are calculated to determine whether they have done so. So the entire focus is on variance analysis just to mitigate the loss. But in case of target costing, we are not focusing on mitigating the loss. Rather, we are focusing on achieving the target profit. So, when you are trying to mitigate the loss, it means you are not looking to make the profit, right? But in case of target costing, we try to achieve the profit which is set by the top management. Target costing starts with a product design concept. From this, a selling price is determined for the product and a profit requirement is set. So as I told you that a selling price is determined and the profit requirement is set, the target profit requirement should be driven by a strategic profit planning rather than a standard markup. So instead of having 10% on cost, 5% on cost, 15% of cost, the profit should be taken as a strategic move, because these are the competitive times. You cannot set a markup on cost. You have to set a target profit, because competition is very high. You cannot set the selling prices very high. If you set the selling price high, the customers will move to the substitute. The customer will move to your competitors. So we have to set a target profit, and then we should move backward to find out what should be the cost to achieve that target profit. So target profit is a commitment agreed by all people who have any part in achieving it. So as I told you earlier also, that continuous improvement, target profit is one method to implement continuous improvement in the organizations. So when I say continuous improvement, it means every person in the organization is responsible for it. It is not only the duty of the top management to build continuous improvement in the systems. It is the responsibility of everyone who is affected or being affected by the organizational activities. So target profit is not the commitment of top management as it is written here is strategic profit planning, and you may get a notion that it is the job of top management. Rather, its achievement, its accomplishment is a commitment which should be agreed upon by all the persons who are part of that organization, be it your supplier even. So what are the various stages of target costing? First is the design specification of the product including extra features. See, you have to find out what all customer needs. You have to find out what extra features can be added which should compulsorily increase the value of a product. So at this stage, we can take either value analysis or value engineering. See, value analysis is used for existing products and value engineering is used for building a new product. So in all the cases, we are trying to incorporate all those design specifications which are needed by the customer, which are required by the customer. So to build those features, what is the number of components required and what should be the design of components? We should try to take standardized components rather than customized components. So the objective should be to have standardized components, because for that we can have a dedicated supplier and the number of suppliers can be reduced. Type of packaging required, we should try to avoid multiple layers of packaging. So these are the things which should be looked upon by at the this stage, target costing stage, because in all such cases cost is needed. The number of spare parts that needs to be carried, because if you increase the number of spare parts, what will happen? The cost will rise and eventually the selling price, and that should not be done from the point of view of the organization. So the spare parts should be such which are actually required for the basic functionality of the product. Now see, timing of cost determination and occurrence. As I told you earlier that 80 to 90% of the cost is actually logged at the time of R&D phase. So as you can see here we have R&D phase, here we have production phase. So as you can see here, this is the percentage of cost. So as you can see here, till now the cost has risen to 85%. So after that, we take a time to develop the product, and what you can see, the cost increment is only 15%. Till this amount, the cost is logged at the time of R&D phase only. So only 15% of cost is needed in the production phase. So this is why this R&D phase or target costing is very important, because we try to reduce the cost at the time of design stage only. So that is why the cost saving is higher as compared to Kaizen costing. Because in Kaizen costing, as I explained you earlier also, that Kaizen costing is implemented when you are actually into the production phase. But in case of Kaizen costing, in case of target costing, we are reducing cost at the R&D phase, at the design stage only. Target costing in the concept and in design stage, how it takes place. So first of all, you have to understand that this is an iterative process. Iterative means repetitive process. So you keep on repeating that target costing exercise till the time you achieve that particular target cost, because it is impossible to achieve that target cost in one go. So you have to keep on adding new features, deleting new features, finding out new alternatives to achieve that customer specifications. So this is an iterative process and it is conducted till the time you achieve that target cost. So what you need to do, first of all, you have to plan. This includes fixing the product concept and the primary specifications for performance and design. So as I told you that whenever you are developing a new product, the value engineering is used. So it is used to identify new and innovative yet cost-effective product features that would be valued by the customers and meet their requirements. Students, I just want to give you a small example here. I am just giving you example of nail polish removers. So previously it was coming in liquid form, but because of value engineering, see, I think if all of you know that these are made from spirit, so if it is left for some time, it automatically gets evaporated. So to overcome this problem, because of this value engineering, the manufacturers or the companies are now evolved, has innovated a new way of this nail polish removers. Now they are coming in blotting paper type, so that nail polish remover is absorbed in the blotting paper and that is kept in the airtight jars. So that has elongated the life of that nail polish remover, and moreover it is very handy to use. You can keep it in your purse. So this is how value engineering is conducted, so as to give new features, to bring up new ideas which are innovative and cost effective at the same time. So as I told you earlier also, target cost is equal to planned selling price minus required profit. This required profit is actually a strategic move. This required profit is set by seeing the elasticity of the particular product and the level of competition. So this is a strategic move. So after deducting planned selling price and required profit, you will get the target cost, and that is what has to be achieved. Now the concept design, it means now you are building the design, you are building a concept. It means now you are trying to prepare a sort of you are trying to visualize the product. Now when you have visualized the product, the next comes the basic design. It means the components are designed in detail so that they do not exceed the functional target cost. Value engineering is used to get the cost down to the target, as I explained you earlier also. So detailed design. The detailed specifications and cost estimates are set down from basic design stage. So as you can see, we are gradually moving from basic design to detailed design, means what extra features. Now comes the manufacturing preparation. The manufacturing process is designed in keeping with the target cost. It means the entire process should move in consonance with each other. So this target cost phenomena should not end at the planning phase only. It should be properly implemented in the systems, because you can only achieve target cost when it is implemented according to the specifications laid down in the R&D stage. Now how the target cost is broken down. You have total target cost. So total target cost can be divided into three types. One is development cost, that is R&D, then manufacturing equipment, because you have to buy equipments for manufacturing that particular product. Then now target cost per unit, right? So now we have to focus on this. So target cost per unit, again manufacturing cost per unit and distribution cost per unit, we cannot change it. So what we can change it finally, this is manufacturing cost per unit. So what we are doing, we are actually bringing so many options. So out of these three options, we will see only that option which is able to achieve that target cost. So as I told you, that it is an iterative process. So you are doing till the time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 times, till the time you achieve this target cost. So this is how the total target cost is broken into these parts. So when you take target cost, it does not include only manufacturing cost. It takes into consideration the development cost, the cost of equipments, the distribution cost also, right? So as I told you that there are some certain prerequisites to just-in-time systems. There are certain prerequisites to total quality management. And so similarly, if you want to implement target costing, you need certain support systems, because target costing is not the job of only production department. As I told you, I have been telling you that achieving quality is not the role, is not the baby of functional departments. The organization should be should move for the larger perspective, should be seen as a one unit. So you need to have certain support systems. So the first is sales pricing support systems. It means you should set the sales price according to the competition in the market. So these are actually market research systems which have the following qualities: an ability to break down product functions into sub-functions and supply information on that basis. It means you have to break down the product features into product into its functions, into the utilities which it may give, and you have to find out the role of suppliers in that, because they will charge for it. Facilities to convert the value placed on each function into price. It means you have to find out the value of each function. See, if you want to make profit, everything should be converted in monetary terms. So we have to convert every function into a value, right? So the value price conversion, we have to create a value price conversion table or create a database, so that this database can be used in by other products also. Sometimes we produce variants also by keeping the basic design same, so that database can be used in further developments or further innovations. A market research toolbox with various forecasting techniques, so as because we have to see the quantity also. Because sometimes we can compromise with the selling price because the increased quantity will compensate the reduction in the selling prices. So we should conduct simulation functions like what if or sensitivity analysis, etc. What will happen if this change happen? What will happen if your supplier charges more prices? What will happen if there is a change in the rules and regulations? So these all types of environmental sensitivity should be also checked for. So these are the sales price support systems. Now coming to target profit computation support system, right? So support mechanisms for strategy formulation, profit planning, human resource management, and capital investment decision making, because that all will affect your profit. So what should be the product portfolio? What should be the product mix in the future? Because as I told you earlier also, during break-even point explanation or marginal costing explanation, that every organization should see an optimal product mix. We have to see what contribution every product is bringing into the organization, because it will eventually affect the overall profit of the organization. So profit breakdown systems for each product, you should be able to find out, if it is a multi-product firm, you should be able to find out the profit associated with each product. Then we should have research and development support system. See, this support system is very important for implementing target cost, because the innovation or the new developments can only be taken at the design phase, and that is done at the research and development support system. So we can use computer graphics, we have computer aided design, CAD, and computer aided engineering, so which can find out what are the value adding features. We should have project management systems to monitor and aid R&D activities based on expert systems or artificial intelligence, so that you can set the activity time, so that you can set the resource requirements, so that is all can be done by artificial intelligence. Now lastly, we should understand that human resource and motivation is above all needed. So pressure is put on individuals to achieve the required results in their section. If they do not meet the target, they are perceived as letting the group down. If this approach is used by all employees, they must feel that yes, they are the part of the organizations. They should see that I'll grow when my organization grows. So they will try to give their best to the organization. So they should be made responsible to implement quality into the systems. So these all things are needed to implement target costing in the organization. So students, you have to understand that quality target costing, Kaizen costing, continuous improvement, value analysis, functional analysis, just in time. These all are the ways to improve quality in your organization, because it is the quality which can give you cutting edge in these competitive scenarios. So, with you, what should be the new accounting or to costing systems which are actually meant for the new production systems like just in time or push systems, right? So let us understand the meaning of backflush accounting and the difference between the traditional accounting and the backflush accounting. So students, let us understand. Organizations must force down cost while still satisfying customers' requirements if they are to achieve competitive advantage. It means the cost should be curtailed up to such a level that we should achieve competitive advantage, right? Because that is how you can improve your profitability, and that is how you can gain market share. So they need to be flexible and to maintain the ability to respond to quickly to changes in the marketplace has also become paramount. It means they should respond quickly to the market changes, because if they are not responsive, if they are not accommodating the market changes, the market requirements, what will happen? The customer will switch to another competitor, right? So the costing system should be designed to complement the operations flow of the particular organization. It means the costing system should be so responsive, so flexible, so that it can give you the information which is needed for the smooth flow of production process. It should also provide information which management can use to plan and control the operations on daily, monthly and long-term basis. See, the job of the management accountant is to provide you information in the required format. The job of the management accountant is to highlight the problem area. So this can only be done if you have accounting systems which are in consonance with the new production systems like JIT or PUSH, right? So that is what I'm going to explain you here in this slide. So let us understand what are the traditional manufacturing systems. So it was assumed that time is money. So no worker or other resources like machine should be kept idle, right? So what they were doing, they just to utilize worker and other amenities of production system, they were flooded with continuous work, right? So as time is spent adjusting machinery to cope with different products is time wasted, right? So what they mean to say that they are actually producing standardized products with little customization, because they felt that if they are going to change the products every now and then, what do they need to do? They need to change the setup of machinery. So during that time, what will happen? The machinery and worker will be left idle. So the production systems were run according to the product, right? So in order to increase efficiency and reduce production cost per unit, batch sizes and production runs should be as great as possible, because if you are producing huge quantities, the average cost per unit will decrease as you go on increasing the number of units. So moreover, what will happen if you are producing same kind of product, you are not required to change the setup. The equipments and the machinery will move on with the same setup. So the downtime will be less in for resetting equipment. So with all philosophies, traditional manufacturing systems depended on producing standardized products, building huge inventories of raw material and finished goods, so that at any point of time no worker, no machinery is left idle. The downside of the long production runs is a buildup of inventory. Inventory is usually not an asset, instead it is a liability. So students, I have been continuously telling you that whenever you are building huge inventories in the name of raw material or finished goods, they are no doubt reflected as an asset in your balance sheet. But they are not asset, they are liability, because they need to be converted into revenue. So till the time you are not converting them into revenue, they are liability, because a lot of capital is tied up in your finished goods and raw material. Moreover, they will occupy valuable spaces of your stores. There will be chances of pilferage and deterioration in the quality. So that money, that capital can be invested elsewhere where you can get higher rate of return. So inventory must be considered to be a liability because it takes up valuable space and ties up money that could be invested elsewhere. Money and goods are waiting around, covering up and protecting inefficiency, right? So money and goods are actually taken as a shield to protect the inefficiencies in selling. So if you are not selling the goods, if you are not producing the goods which are not accepted by the market, you are actually shifting that burden to the salesperson that they are not efficient in selling the goods, right? So inefficiency and unevenness of machine capacity creates bottlenecks, and in order to overcome these, inventory is built up in large quantities. So what is happening, because since machines are used up to great extent, what happened, that created a bottleneck. Bottleneck means they are is actually stopping the smooth flow of production process. So why this bottleneck is taking up is building? Because you are producing large inventories. That is why the machines are overutilized, and they are actually see, the organization had a notion that this machine is a bottleneck. The things are other way around. This, you are just to utilize machinery, what you are doing, you are ending up with huge inventories. That is actually your capital and space blockage. So that is how I have explained the relationship between batch size and cost per unit, right? So here I have plotted number of units manufactured per batch, and here the cost. So as you can see here, so if you go on increasing the number of units, what will happen? The stock holding cost will increase. So stock holding cost includes the space, the capital, the insurance charge to protect this stock from any kind of loss, and the loss due to pilferage, the loss because the cost of inspection and all. So these are treated as stock holding cost. So as you go on producing more and more number of units, what will happen? This cost will increase, right? But see what happens if you are not, if you are the what will happen to the average cost? The average cost will decline, because what happens, that same cost is actually divided, is absorbed by more number of units. So that is why you may feel that manufacturing costs are decreasing, right? So this is actually the total cost. It means you are taking into consideration the stock holding cost also and the manufacturing cost also, right? So as you go on producing more number of units, you will reduce the average cost per unit. So this is the total cost. So as you can see that these two costs are contradictory in nature. So if you are producing lesser quantity, what you will have? You will have lesser holding cost, but your manufacturing cost will be high because it is absorbed by lesser number of units. So these graphs assume different, or you can say opposite slopes. So they are treated as contradictory cost. So to find the equilibrium here, this is the minimum cost. So that is the optimum level of production which should be taken up by any organization. So this is how we can find out what should be the optimum batch size, where these two cost, the stock holding cost and the manufacturing cost, optimize themselves, right? So now coming to modern manufacturing philosophy. See, modern manufacturing philosophy says that we should produce as and when it is needed by the customer. So we are shifting from pull systems where, sorry, we are shifting ourselves from push system to pull system. In case of push systems, what happens? The Organization is maintaining huge inventories of finished goods and they are pushed in the market by the salesperson. But the modern manufacturing philosophy relies on pull systems. It means you should not produce according to your requirements, according to your prejudices like consumption of worker and machinery. They should not be kept idle. So this is one kind of prejudice which was carried by the older manufacturers. But the new manufacturing philosophy says that we should not produce before the customer needs it. So it places emphasis on a smooth, steady production flow, that is throughput is actually output, and not on high individual labor activity and machine efficiency. So here the focus has been changed to smooth production flow. We are not concentrating on individual labor or individual machinery. So it is assumed that the parts working together work as effectively as possible in order to make the whole effective, right? So we are focusing on a small part so that we can gain the effectiveness at the larger level. So these manufacturing philosophy assume that your production systems should be flexible and provide exactly what the customer wants and at the moment it is wanted. So the job of new manufacturing system is to provide right product to the right customer and at the right time and at the same time right cost. Thus, companies that adopt a modern manufacturing philosophy must be responsive, flexible and effective, right? Otherwise, they'll not be able to cater to the customer requirements. In order to be all these things, an organization must offer a relatively wide range of products and produce them on demand. It means if a company wants to be responsive, flexible and effective, it needs to produce a variety of products because one customer will not get satisfied with one product. So you need to produce according to the requirements of the customer. So it means you are producing variety. So this makes managing the business a more complex affair as it entails more production scheduling, more components to buy, more materials to track. So since you are not producing huge batch sizes, you are producing variety. So you have to schedule your production because you have to meet the customer deadline. So you have to see that your deadlines are met. You have to buy more components because you are producing customized products. So every product needs different kinds of component. So you need to maintain a proper check on supply chain. So these are the basic requirements of modern manufacturing systems. So see, this is how the things are happening. So this is the traditional approach. Now this I have already explained in the previous slide. Now this is the modern approach. What is happening? This is variety cost. So as you are producing more variety, what is happening? The cost rises. But what happens? You are saving in the name of volume cost. Since you are not producing huge volumes, what will happen? You will save in the name of stock holding cost, which I have explained you earlier, right? So here the total cost goes up to that level, but since you are producing according to the requirements of the customer, what will happen? You will develop a brand equity in the market, you will develop a goodwill in the eyes of the customer, so that will affect your repeat purchases. You can cross sell the product, you can retain the customer because you are producing according to his or her requirements, right? So although you may find that total cost is higher as compared to the traditional approach, but this total cost can be compensated by the profit margins because since you are producing according to the requirements, you may charge profit based on the higher total cost. Moreover, if there is no, see, there is not the problem of higher prices. The problem is of value for money proposition. So if you are giving value for money proposition to the customer, The customer will not hesitate in giving a little bit higher price. So this is how you can find out the relationship between volume and variety. So as I told you that if you want to produce variety, you need to be flexible. So how an organization can be flexible? So minimize the movement of components and products, because backtracking always takes time. You need to have instruments, you need to have equipments like mini truck and all, that will again utilize the space. So these costs will increase, and eventually you will face reduction in your profit margins. So we should minimize the movement of components and products. Organize manufacturing layout by product family and not by production activity or function. So your setup, your layout, the factory layout should be on the basis of product, not on the basis of processes, right? So because if you are arranging your physical facilities on the basis of process, what will happen? There will be frequent backtracking, frequent movement of components and products, because you have to move your product from one process to another. That will eventually waste your time. Production scheduling will be simplified as a result of altering the layout and will therefore be more efficient, right? So production scheduling should be simple so that you can easily alter the layout as and when needed by any customer. This will help compensate for the complication and additional cost of short production runs. So we should have general kind of labor, general kind of machinery, so that you require fewer setups. Waiting time decreases because movement of components is reduced and scheduling improved. Since you are actually removing complex processes, what will happen? The waiting time decreases because you are actually moving according to the customer requirement. So this is what we call JIT, that is just in time production, and which is another name of pull system, right? So this is how you can capture the customer, you can move the customer in these tough competitive times. So now, students, you have already understood what are the accounting systems in case of push, where we are actually starting from the purchase of raw material. So now since we have to be flexible enough, so when I say flexibility does not only take into consideration your manufacturing process. The accounting should also accommodate the flexibility which is required. So in traditional cost accounting systems, they track the sequence of raw materials and components moving through the production systems, and as a consequence are called sequential tracking systems. So this sequence starts as and when you purchase raw material, because see, you are producing huge quantities of finished good. So for that you need huge quantities of raw material. So what is happening actually? You are only following a fixed sequence of raw material and components, and you have to see what is happening at every stage, and you are actually accounting for in the name of value of inventory, in the name of value of work in progress, in the name of value of finished goods, right? But JIT is an entirely different system. It requires its own cost accounting system. The absence of stocks make choices about inventory valuation systems unnecessary. See, in case of just in time, you are purchasing inventory as and when needed. So since you don't have any inventory, there is no point of inventory valuation. The rapid conversion of direct material into cost of goods sold simplifies the cost accounting systems. Since the inventory is bought at the time when it is needed, and it is actually directly placed into the production system. So the conversion cycles are very small. So there is no point in evaluating the inventory or evaluating the raw material. So when you are accounting for all such types of activities, this is known as back flush accounting. Right, students? So let us understand how it moves. So backflash accounting delays the recording of cost until after the events have taken place. Then standard costs are used to work backwards to flush out the manufacturing cost, right? So the recording of cost does not take place at the time of purchase of raw material, right? Rather, we are working backwards. Once the goods are produced, we take a backward process so that we can find out what is the total cost of production. So there are two events that trigger the records kept in most backflash accounting systems. So this backflash accounting system can be implemented in two ways. So as you can see, in the traditional accounting system, the trigger was the purchase of raw material, right? So from there we start recording our cost. But in case of backflash accounting, the trigger starts, the first is the purchase of raw material. In a true JIT system where absolutely no raw material inventory is held, even this trigger is not relevant and raw materials are flushed when the second trigger is activated. The second trigger is either the transfer of goods to the finished goods inventory or in a true JIT system, the sale of goods, right? So as I told you in this lecture that in case of traditional manufacturing systems, you have opening stock of raw material, you have opening stock of work in progress, you have opening stock of finished goods also. But in case of that is why you need to have proper inventory valuation. So, but in case of JIT, what is happening? What is the trigger? The trigger is only the purchase of raw materials, right? So, in most of the cases, since material is directly flushed into the production system, so what is happening? The second trigger is most important. That is when the transfer of goods to finished goods inventory, right? Or in a true JIT system, when actually you are making the sale. So that is actually the prominent activity or the time taking activity which is taking place. Otherwise, the entire production process goes on so smoothly, so fast that you hardly get any time to record these transactions. So see, this is the system 1. A small inventory of raw material is held but no finished goods stock. So we have purchased raw materials of pound 3200. So what will happen? We will have the inventory control cost will be debited and payables control which are actually our vendors, suppliers. So we will be debiting the inventory control and crediting the payables control. Now conversion cost incurred. See, conversion cost includes, instead of using the all variable cost or cost of labor, cost of machinery and all, these costs are clubbed as conversion cost. So the total cost of pound 3000 is incurred in the conversion. So we are actually to conversion cost control 3000 in individual accounts like labor, like fixed, like machinery, like depreciation and all. These are individual accounts. But here we are giving is a nominal account. So here we are transferring it as 3000. Now goods sold pound 6000 worth at standard cost. So the cost of goods sold was pound 6000. Inventory control 2900, conversion cost allocated 3100. So this is how the cost is allocated between inventory control and conversion cost. So as you are seeing that conversion costs are actually 3000, but we have allocated what? 3100. So this is over absorption. So conversion cost allocated 3100, cost of goods sold 100 and conversion cost control 3000. So again we are transferring this over absorbed 100 rupees to which account? Cost of goods sold. Right? So this is how the system goes on. It's very simple. You are finding very few entries in the accounting system. So you can easily find out where the cost is rising so that you can take a right decision. Now let us understand it further. So cost of goods sold here, this is entire 6000. This 6000 is transferred to inventory control here. We have bought the machinery of materials of pound 3200. So this amount will be carried down. Conversion cost 3100, total conversion cost allocated 3,100, and out of this 3,100, this is again transferred to cost of goods sold. Now conversion cost 3,000, labor and overhead, as I told you earlier, and conversion cost control is debited, right? So this is how the ledger accounts for system 1 are maintained. So how many accounts we are having? Only 3: inventory control, cost of goods sold, and conversion cost. So if you compare with traditional systems, there we have had more number of transactions, more number of entries, and more number of ledger accounts. So that will create a complex system and impedes the speedy decision making process, right? Now coming to the next system, here there is no raw material purchase, so no entry. Since we are actually flushing in the raw material directly into the production process, so we are not making any entry for the raw material. So the entire system is same. Otherwise, so conversion cost 3,000. So all other entries are same, other than that we have eliminated the purchase of raw material, because the raw material purchase is immediately flushed into the production system, right students? So here you can see we have added one more entry here. So finished goods control is 6,000. The entire cost is now divided into payables control and conversion control cost allocated, right? So as you can see in the previous slide, that payables control was mentioned here, but since no entry was made for raw materials, so here we are allocating money out of finished goods. It means the trigger process is not the purchase of raw material. The trigger process is the production of finished goods, right? So this is how we can eliminate the unnecessary entries, the unnecessary ledger accounts, so that we can focus on the relevant cost. Now this is again the ledger accounts, as I told you earlier also. So I think this slide is self-explanatory. So I am assuming the same process. Here the cost of goods sold is 5,900. Here the conversion cost extra allocated, so that is transferred back to cost of goods sold. This is the finished goods inventory. So finished goods inventory, we have 2,900 as payables control and 3,100 as conversion cost conversion cost control, right? So this is how we are maintaining very few ledger accounts, so that we can take a fast decision. So now what are the benefits? So this is the system used by Toyota in its UK factory. So in true Japanese style, it manipulates employees to behave in a certain way, because you have to work according to the requirements of the customer. Benefits are: the traditional system is time consuming and expensive to operate, as it requires a considerable amount of documentation such as material requisitions and time sheets to support it in order to maintain the work in progress records and job cards, right? Employees must concentrate on achieving sales, because cost of sales is the trigger. There is no benefit in producing goods for inventory, because your capital will be tied up. You are actually locking your valuable space. So there is no point in producing goods only to store. The goods should be produced to sell, not to store. So these are the benefits. Now these are the few criticisms of this backflush accounting. It can only be used where you have a GIT type system in operation, but traditional accounting system can be used any type of industry, any type of manufacturing system. The backflush accounting model does not conform to the accepted financial accounting procedures for external reporting. So in a way, you are supposed to maintain records twice. First for the external reporting, where you have to meet the IFRS, but because see here we are producing accounts just to facilitate speedy managerial decision making, but that will not serve the purpose of external reporting. So in reality, it is impossible to eliminate all inventory, as a truck arriving with raw material creates inventory until it is moved to and used in production. right students? So a perfect JIT type of system is very difficult to implement, although the companies like Toyota has implemented it well and successfully, but it is not possible for every organization. But nevertheless, we cannot undermine the importance of these types of accounting systems because it is the need of the hour. You have to cater to the requirements of the customers if you want to sustain your market share, if you want to survive, if you want to expand, if you want to diversify. So students, this is all from my side for this lecture. In the second part of this modern costing systems, I'll take up another accounting system in the name of throughput accounting. Right students? So this is all for this lecture. See you soon. Thank you.